tapped into a podcast by The Smartest Animal, brought to you by A2X LCD, at the intersection of art and authenticity. Visit thesmartestanimal.com for more. The following series was recorded over the course of a year, moderated by Siri, hosted by A2.
All right, we've talked a lot about music.
Yes.
Talk to me about the photography. Talk to me about the photography. What are you doing here? You know, we said the photos on social media, but what's the passion here? Talk about what you're doing in photography and how that kind of maybe ties back to music, or maybe where it doesn't.
So 35 millimeter film comes from a photographer that I've worked with for a while, and I might have shared the story in the past, but essentially he uses both digital and film, and this is when film was making a comeback in the mid to late 2010s. And so I said, hey, let me look into this, but of course this is an expense. I picked probably the worst time to invest in 35 millimeter film because of inflation. So that has definitely been a factor and a thorn in my side for this photography journey. However, by that point, I had gotten enough practice with iPhones and other DSLR cameras to develop a style that is as varied as my work with music, as we've had this conversation about the different aspects and facets of music that I'm doing. I would say the same applies to photography. Right now on my page, I'm tapping back into this black and white Ilford HP5 film that I really like tone wise, this monochrome feel, nostalgic, melancholic, even to where and the scenes vary. I love architecture, also love landscape. As a New Yorker, the former is very prevalent. So I have a shot called Home in Monochrome of the Brooklyn Bridge that's very symmetrical. And this is one of my favorite shots. I'd say that this is like my top 5 in a sense. But I also have shots where it just reflects my true state in nature, where I like to be and unplug, there's a lot of shots by the ocean, which is where I like to be. Shots in the woods, hiking, where I like to be. And when they say art imitates life and life imitates art, I think if it wasn't music, it would definitely be photography that would fulfill that statement. Anything beyond, what I've explored in the 35 millimeter journey in the 2010s has taken that level, as we mentioned, of, publishing work on the blockchain. And again, never taking no for an answer on how you can diversify your reach. The key is diversification. I would never go all in on one or the other, just like I'm not going all in on music, as evidenced by this conversation. But that's important to note as well, because these are all things that attribute back to me and work that I am proud of and stand behind, and will always reference as far as what makes the A2X.jpg project so special to me is the fact that it's another extension of who I am creatively,
And it, just another outlet for you to create, express creatively, express that emotion, express who you are, for sure. And it certainly sounds like, that, again, just that varied style, diverse style, right? You get your fingers in everything, kind of become a, we talked about this before also, but kind of that jack of all trades, right? Even within your disciplines, right? You become a jack of all trades within the music. What are the other avenues beyond, you hang your hat on piano and music, but like the photography, the poetry, how'd that stuff start, and how does that kind of tie out again? How do those things help you to deliver that message? How do those things, give you another medium to be a vessel to deliver kind of what you're looking to deliver?
Right. Okay. So the reason why I started talking about that transition, moving to North Carolina from Jersey and like New York area, was because this was the time that I started writing a lot more and having to put my thoughts down, and just kind of just go through this journey of like seeing my writing go from like very
you know, beat around the bush and vague and not addressing core issues to like very direct. So, but throughout high school, I always had a notebook with me. I was always writing, and I also had a small pocket-sized dictionary that I would keep with me because I was always interested in like finding words that I could like throw in and use and just ultimately like, you know, develop like a very strong connection with language because I saw the power in that. And I saw that it was a nice contrast to the music that I was doing without words, because I also believe just as strongly that I could communicate my thoughts and feelings in there. So poetry and words and language have always been a big part of, you know, what my expression has been, because, you know, you have to put copy out to market your stuff. And I didn't want that to be a disadvantage. And my dad in particular always emphasized just making sure you read, you know, making sure you stay studied up, and making sure that you sound like you actually know what you're talking about, even though you might be in like rooms where you know a little bit less, you at least can like move in conversation. I think that's the power of language, and that's why I'm so interested in, you know, fluently learning other ones. And then when I got to college and went from a nursing career path to a communications career path, I had to take intro to photography courses. I had to take intro to design courses, and, you know, just very core educational experiences where it was like I felt like I was getting, you know, what appealed to my skill set. And, you know, beyond that, just learning like marketing and other key aspects that really helped guided, you know, my path. So being able to learn all of those skills during college as I was building A2 and using A2 for like assignments, basically for like at least 2 to 3 years, and just figuring this shit out. This was very key for me. And all of those fields, you know, again, now I can say as a multi-hyphenate, lean into each other. And then the older I got, when I spent some time in Nashville, I learned even more about just, you know, the engineering on the music side and the equipment and just all the technical aspects and lingo that I had to get up to speed with. And I think what I started realizing now more than ever was there's this general misconception that, you know, musicians just hit the stage, you know, play a couple, you know, bops and then head out. But if you're trying to do it at the highest level, that is absolutely not the case. And so the more people I studied and the more musicians that I started like learning from and just listening to their interviews and things like that, the more I'm like, all right, like I have to be savvy in multiple areas, but also build a network to where, you know, I might not be good at, you know, like, for example, like I don't speak another fluent language yet. So having somebody in my circle who speaks Spanish, who speaks French, you know, who speaks Italian is very advantageous, you know, not to take advantage of them, but just knowing that I have somebody in my community that can help me with that should I need it. So, yeah, just to sum it all up, like all of those skills were very important down the line. And I knew that I had to be multidisciplinary and not one dimensional. Like that's what it came down to. Like I couldn't put myself at a disadvantage, you know, from a young age, because I understood like how important those skills were to be later down the line. And, you know, you also learn more than anything, like the people that you rock with or can either propel you years ahead or set you years behind. And so those were all the experiences and skills that I had to learn. You know, those are more intangibles, right? Like obviously, like the design and stuff kind of manifests like on, you know, concert flyers, like for like one I got coming up on Memorial Day, and things like that. But like more the intangibles, just learning like how to like move in circles and how to like, you know, be confident in yourself and respect who you are as a person, but then still get yourself out there as a professional and come across and impress and you leave people with a lasting impression. You know, it's just that fine line. So whether it's, again, fine skills or intangible skills, like those are things that I've been using over the years and have helped to the multi-hyphenate nature.
Well, man, A2, it sounds like, you know, the cliche is jack of all trades, master of none, but, you know, we got A2 here, jack of all trades, master of keys. So, you know, you've kind of taken both those paths, right? The specialist path where, look, this is my love, this is my passion. I got to go be a specialist of this thing, right? I got to go be Michael Jordan playing basketball. But at the same time, I also got to learn the business side, the design side, and all these other things I've got to handle because that's just real life. And if I want to go do this, these are the things I'm gonna have to do. So I love that because I'm probably the first cliche, jack of all trades, master of none. But I love when you get to talk to a master who's also thinking about all the other things as well, right? So I love it. I love it. On that note, right? You mentioned kind of in that transition you started writing, and it was kind of a vague writing to more of a direct writing. When you started writing, was there intention behind that writing? A lot of what you're doing is very intentional, right? Hey, I learned this specifically because I knew that I had to get from here to here. Was the writing more of an outlet, or was there, hey, I'm thinking about maybe adding lyrics to the music? What was the writing's goal when you initially started? And maybe how's that changed today?
It was kind of both. I think part of me was really trying to figure out how to rap, and just like put it to something that I was doing, but I was also learning so much about this was a time that like Lil Wayne was putting out some of his best work, like the Carter 3 and things like that. So I was very curious by that, but having given my context as a classical, sacred music, like gospel, like Christian, like background, like coming from that, and then learning about this, even though I grew up in New York, it was just, it was more of a study for me. So to this day, like I've always just been more than anything, like I'm researching this stuff. Like I'm getting into rooms and like talking about, very, specific, like, interviews and things like that, because like, that's like part of the craft and stuff as well. Let's see here. As far as like the writing going from vague to specific, I really just was trying to, again, learn how to, how do you call this? I was trying to learn how to like kind of find my cadence and flow with it, because I was realizing it was more of a free verse. Like I call myself like more free verses than anything else. It was like a poetry prose combination where, I didn't really want to like stay. I felt really constricted actually by like a rhyming scheme or like a beat whenever I wanted to write something out. So it was more of like a spoken word kind of flow, which led me to like discover some spoken word artists and really understand like, okay, like cool, I could do this a cappella if I wanted to. And then again, just that whole conversation of being very curious by my own language and just, how to like really dive into it and like be a master of that. The other part of writing for me was more of an emotional thing. As at that time, I had probably moved into my second state, but it was very much a culture shock coming from a diverse, New York background to like going down to the South. And as somebody, who's, Black and Asian, it was just very different. And there's a lot of other things that were happening surrounding that scenario that really brought to my attention that I had to really be internally like thick-skinned, so to say, so that, no matter what came my way, and there was a lot, I was able to say like, okay, like I can still look myself in the mirror and be like, very happy at the man that I'm staring at, because I know where my path is headed. So it was, but it was really tough because like you're 14, 15, 16 years old, you're going through some new states. And then after you choose to go to college even further away from home, just again, from the conviction that like, no matter where I am, as long as I, as long as God got me and I got me, like I'm good, that type of thing. So writing was a 2-part thing. So as time has gone on and I've matured and learned better ways to like cope, I've written a lot less in some regard for the emotional outlet, and written a lot more because I have thoughts in my head that I feel really strongly about, and I can communicate them very clearly. And I really pride myself on that. And I think we're in a day and age where people spend a lot of time trying to, land the plane. Like I always like when I'm in church and the preacher taking too long, man, yo, preacher, land the plane, man. Just land that plane. You don't gotta say what this whole thing in 20 minutes, what you can say in 3. Like, and that's the thing about language. Like I can spend time talking all day about me, whatever, but the most powerful words that I feel are gonna ultimately get edited for this are gonna be very specific and very concise and towards, what I'm trying to speak about. And I feel like if we were more intentional about how we speak and use our language, we would be able to communicate better, because what happens with a lot of like relationships that don't work, communication issues, you probably weren't being clear. You know what I'm saying? So that's language for me is like really important to that regard. But, you know, the emotional aspect was really important. And, you know, again, having that confidence within to just say, you know, like, as long as God got me and I got me, I'll be good. It was very significant, because there was just a lot that I was writing through. Like, I can think to the color, like I think about it in colors, and I can think about how dark it was. We talk about dark times, like it was literally like pitch black, but I still saw light. You know, that's the conviction that I kind of walk into life with. So, and that's what I want to use language for. But again, using that as a nice contrast to the immersive instrumental catalog that I have. So it's a very nice dichotomy of things that I have going on, you know, ironically with A2, you know, we got a 2 in there, but it's again, like it's stuff that means the most to me, and like I stand behind it fully.
No, and you know, you mentioned kind of finding that voice and having that almost that backstop, you know, that light, if you will, at the end of the tunnel, given, you know, the darkness you were surrounded by. Man, I couldn't imagine having that intentional thought at 14, 15, 16 years old. I just extreme wisdom to kind of have that, even that moment of clarity kind of at that age. I applaud you for that.